Hey everybody, what's going on? Chip Towers of Dog Nation here, wrestling with technology in my new home. Bear with me just a minute here. I'm trying to get that working. I think we do. How you doing, everybody? Welcome back to Auburn Week. This is Towers Take, brought to you by Marco's Pizza. Marco's Pizza is America's #1 pizza company, and the pizza's real good. And I'm sitting here. One of the things that absent-minded Chip is sitting here worried about is I left my Marco's Pizza downstairs. My office is upstairs in my new house. Thank you. There's probably upwards of a dozen boxes in here with me in my office. If you follow me on Facebook or any social media, you know that I've been moving, for the past week or so. And it's a long story as to why I had to move now in the middle of the football season, because, it's not like there's anything going on, is there? No, last time I checked, Georgia's a pretty good football team. Last time I checked, they have not lost. Last time I checked, they're playing another top 10 ranked team in the college football playoff rankings on Saturday, the Auburn Tigers. War Eagle out there to all you Auburn fans who are on here. I would assume there's not very many. SEC Country, by the way, does a great job of covering Auburn. Justin Ferguson and those guys over there do really good work. Justin, in fact, was my guest for the Opposing View blog this week. Did a really good job of answering questions for us on there. And so let's see if we can get everybody going on some comments here. I'm going to try to keep my electronic devices. Actually, there's 66 of you have already commented on here, so I'm sorry I'm just getting around to you. Hey, we got it all working out. There's Kirby Smart, huh? Good-looking guy, old Kirby is. Not real tall, but I know something about that, so I'm not judging anything. Married to the very tall Mary Beth Lysette, Smart. Mary Beth Lysette Smart. She's still Mary Beth Lysette to me. I ran into Mary Beth and a bunch of the coaches' wives in Nashville earlier this year when Georgia was up there playing Vanderbilt. It was good to see her out. All the wives were together going out to eat in Nashville, and that was pretty cool. So let's get to a couple of comments there. You've got some good ones that I've seen. And if I can get them up, Keep Chopping Wood, says Gregory Bloodworth. Let me see. How do I get to these older comments? There we go. Perry McIntyre's on here. Hello, Perry McIntyre Jr. Perry McIntyre Jr., by the way, will be shooting the game on the Plains. I'm sure probably his 4,000th game shooting Georgia. If you ever need great pictures of former Georgia greats, look up Perry McIntyre Jr. He could probably hook you up with some photos of whatever moment. All right, I'm just going to have to pick it up where it is here. If I missed your question, please come back. This is a great matchup. This is a fantastic matchup. This is one of the best matchups I've seen on paper. We'll see if that translates on the field at Jordan-Hare Stadium, where I've witnessed all kinds of wackiness. Actually, I had an interesting conversation earlier today with one of our managers about my first game over here was 1986, so aging myself again. My first Georgia-Florida game was 1985. My first Georgia-Auburn game was 1986. Does anybody remember the Between the Hoses game? Hey, Colt Gotti, go Dogs from Las Vegas. Gotta make note of anybody reaching out. Prayers for Vegas, man, and thanks for tuning in on here. So that was my first experience. Think about this. I'm kind of proud of this. I'm just thinking out loud, but my first game at Georgia, Florida in 1985 was Georgia knocks off #1 ranked Florida 24-3 in just a wild, crazy game. And my first experience with the Auburn game in 1986 is the famous Between the Hoses game. And that game, for those of us who were there, is called Between the Hoses because Georgia fans rushed the field. They upset Auburn. For some reason, 20-16 is sticking in my head. I don't know if that was the score. I remember Steve Boswell was in middle linebacker, had some big plays in that game. I'm sure Big John Brantley did too, the linebackers. But anyway, Georgia won the game. Auburn was not happy about it. Georgia fans rushed the field. And so Auburn people turned on the fire, not the fire hoses. I guess they're giant water cannons for watering the field. Hey, Steve McGill from Mansfield, Ohio. Good to see you there. So it was a crazy, crazy game. I mean, it was cold that night. They had, trying to see your comments here, trying to keep my iPad from falling. Hello, Tony Jackson. I've got to get this down pat. I am not doing a good job of it right now. So for some reason, I'm not doing a good job on my iPad of getting to the other questions you guys have asked. Nathan Taylor, number 10 ranked Auburn is facing the toughest test of the season. That's a good comment, Nathan, and I'm going to go on that one because I do think that's a legitimate point. You know, everybody's talking about this is going to be the toughest defense that Georgia's faced, and it will be. The converse of that is Auburn will be facing the toughest defense it's seen all year, and yes, I'm including Clemson in that. I mean, you know, if you just go by statistics and everything else, Georgia has put up better stats on defense. I mean, who really knows when you get into those comparison type things? It's very difficult to tell. But I definitely think Georgia's got one of the best defenses in America. I think that's been borne out, and that's going to be a huge. I think that's a huge part of this game. There's a lot of, you know, you can break this down. You know, Thursdays I always do my planning for opponent piece, where, you know, you kind of really break it down. There's DeAndre Swift. You know, this is another thing I like about Georgia, the depth, not just at running back, but at a lot of positions, but particularly at running back. I think certainly Auburn has a running game that is somewhat comparable to Georgia's. But Kerryon Johnson, if you look, he's averaging 23.6 carries a game. Nick Chubb just had the most that anybody for Georgia's had this season at 20 against South Carolina this past week. And, you know, Georgia goes 5 deep at that position. I mean, that makes a difference. You know, Cameron, what's his name, is not going to be available for Auburn as I understand it. Georgia's relatively healthy. Auburn's got some line issues. Not only do they have issues, they have some injury issues as well. And that's another thing that is hurting Auburn in this game. Now, that said, you know, well, cutting the chase, Chip, does this mean you think Georgia's going to win? I do think Georgia's going to win. You know, they're undefeated and haven't lost, so I have no reason to pick against them at this point. But I just, you know, kind of the national meme that you're getting is that a lot of people seem to be picking Auburn in this game. That's the way it seems to me anyway. And, I just think, I think Georgia is the better overall team. I think there's a reason that they're in this position. And good Lord, I wish I could get these comments working right for you. Let's see here. There they are. All right, let's see what the latest is we got here. I got to catch up now. Gus Malzahn. Georgia's really had Gus Malzahn's number. Everybody knows Georgia's won 9 of the last 11. Deanna Lane saying they picked Florida too. I don't know how many people picked Florida, but certainly there's a lot of people that thought that could be an upset special. And, you know, I think for Georgia fans, I mean, I hear you, but I do believe this is, you know, it's time to believe. And I'm starting to believe. I mean, you know, I wasn't a guy who picked Georgia to win it all. You know, I think I've said it on here before. I picked Georgia. I picked Florida to win the East. I'm real proud of that pick at this point. Of course, I didn't expect them to get 9 players suspended. Excuse me, I need a little bit of coffee latest. I've had moving stuff going on over here all day long. But I like the Dogs in this game. I like a lot of everything. Now, that said, The matchups tell me, like I said, I was working on planning for the opponent today. Tell me that this is going to be a really good game. I mean, I think it's going to be a good game. I think everybody needs to relax and enjoy that and look forward to that. A great competition between two storied programs. That's what I expect. I mean, everything tells me from the matchups. Now, there is a scenario where I could see Georgia running away with this. That would be predicated upon being able to get pressure on Jarrett Stidham at quarterback and overwhelming Auburn's offensive line a little bit. That's going to be the one big deficiency they have. If you can take advantage of that, you've got a really good shot of overwhelming these guys. But I don't really expect that. I expect Auburn to be in good form, playing at home, playing in a 3:30 game. It got everything to play for. Auburn does. Everything is in play for Auburn. They're the highest-ranked two-loss team in America, according to the College Football Playoff rankings, moved up from 14 to 10 with that impressive road win over Texas A&M last week. So they're going to be the real deal. Which DL has the better advantage over the others? Oh, well. And now that, and that's a great point. That's who asked that? That really is that to me is the story of the game. And I want to give you credit for it. Alan Verbonik asked a question. Alan, you're always coming forth with good questions. I think that's the $1 million question right there is which one, which O-line does a better job handling the D-lines, because both of the D-lines are extremely good. And both of the offensive lines. Look, Georgia's offensive lines played fantastic, played wonderful. But Auburn is extremely strong too. Jeff Holland, their defensive end, who's going to line up on the right side most of the time, is actually leads the SEC with 8 sacks. The defensive end on the other side has 3 sacks or so. A bunch of names that you'll recognize: Dontavius Russell, Montavious Big Cat Bryant, all those guys rotating in for Rodney Garner on the defensive line. Georgia hasn't had a test like this at all. I mean, I would imagine the best D-line they played so far was probably that group at Notre Dame. Really, they haven't encountered anything this good. Clemson has. Auburn has in Clemson. And they made a lot of changes after that. They shuffled up the O-line. Chip Lindsey, the offensive coordinator, went from on the field to up in the box after that 11-sack debacle to Clemson, 14 sacks in the first 2 games. They got injury issues up there. They're moving some guys around. Against Texas A&M, they had to put the guy Prince Tega Wanoho, whatever his name is. All due respect to him, great player, great prospect, 6'7", 350 pounds or something like that. But he came out of the lineup shortly after that Clemson game. He came back in the lineup against Texas A&M because of late injuries. The word is those guys are going to be back. But you'll see how long they hold up. This is going to be a tough physical football game. As for the running attacks, I like Georgia's better too. As I mentioned in the opening, you got basically one guy. Georgia's done a really good job. So one of the keys to Gus Malzahn's offense is, he runs all that motion. I loved what Roquan Smith, how he referred to it earlier. He said there's a lot of eye candy. And so if you can have disciplined eyes, and you hear defenders talk about that all the time, but that's basically not getting lost with all the different jet sweeps and everything, is keeping your eye on your keys and not getting distracted by all the different motions and stuff. And they will hit you with those motions every once in a while, but basically you got to keep your eye on the prize and your key, then you can do a good job. Roy Apley III is saying, Chip, we have to put pressure on Stidham, and you do. And that doesn't necessarily mean sack him. You just gotta affect him, as Kirby likes to talk about. Hello, Ken Murphy, go Dogs. They try to they got to get him off his spot. Corey Burgess wants to know, what about Jacob Eason? What do you want to know? He's your second string quarterback, and he'll be available if you need to. Let's see what Cam Martinez says. If we're down, maybe in the third by say 10 points, and Fromm is having trouble moving the ball, does Eason come in? That's always an option. That's always an option for any backup quarterback. I think Kirby's made it clear that he's going to put the best guy in the game, no matter what. So yeah, I think there's a scenario where Jacob Eason could play without an injury to Jake Fromm, but I doubt it really because I think Jake Fromm's just doing a terrific job, and it goes way beyond just throwing the football. He is practicing well. I just got a question from Jimmy Durham. Yeah, Jacob Eason's playing very well. Got a great attitude, doing a good job. He looks upbeat when I see him. Seems like he's working hard in practice. But that guy right there, Jake Fromm, is your quarterback. And I think he's your quarterback to the future. Yeah, look at him winking at you right there. Could Jacob Eason wink like that? I don't know. No, I mean, I think Jake Fromm, and look, I'm writing something on Jake Fromm. I'll have a tower stake for you tomorrow and another one on Saturday. And I got some interesting stuff on Jake Fromm. I'm eager to share with you guys. And suffice it to say, there's just a lot more to Jake Fromm than passing the football. And I think he's a very good passer. I think he's proven that. I think he's proven that he's very good at throwing the football. Now, how's he going to be throwing it 30 times a game when you can't run at all? We don't know. Kevin James Highland pointing out that Cameron Petway is out due to a hurt shoulder. I have not heard anything beyond just a rumor that he'll be coming back for this game. So yeah, it's Petway and I'm sorry, it's Kerryon Johnson and that other guy. But yeah, Fromm just does so much more than just throw the ball. It's a lot about getting the offense to operate at a fast pace. A lot of it is about getting them in the right play. All those other things that go into playing quarterback. Jake Fromm is exceptional at it. And he was exceptional at it when he was competing with Jacob Eason. I mean, you were hearing that behind the scenes going all the way back into spring practice. Tammy Brinson Pierce saying, I'm tired of people putting down Fromm. And I don't know that people are putting down Fromm necessarily. I think there's a lot of question marks, particularly by the national media. Trip Davidson wants to know if Natrez Patrick will be back. He will. That's kind of interesting. Kirby didn't announce it. We obviously asked him about it. He wouldn't say. He just said his discipline's being handled internally, but he has been practicing and he's been doing a good job. But when you asked defenders, and nobody's trying to trick anybody out of anything. I mean, we just what's Georgia gonna? What does Natrez Patrick coming back mean? And they all said, it's good. We need him, and he's going to be it's a big factor having him back. And I think it is. I mean, there's a reason Natrez Patrick was your starter. Josh Rainey says, my X factor is Mecole Hardman. Seems like he's really coming onto his own. I think he will. Jesse Smith wants my final score prediction. I'm not sure if I'm ready to give that just yet. Let's get a little later into the broadcast. I'm going to pick Georgia to win. Terry Harpshire, what was that, Terry? True Georgia boy from Warner Robins. His heart is 100%. He is. What happened with Godwin's arm? Is it all right? Yeah, he's okay. Cindy Chance Salter says Fromm is amazing. Jesse Smith's giving me a break on making that pick right now. Give me some time to think about it. Look, I want to pick the Dogs. What I'm really confused about is what kind of game may commence. I think it's going to be a close game, and I think Georgia's going to win it. Whether that's 16-13 or 31-28, I'm not sure. I like the defenses in this game. Who is that? Christopher Cromer picks Georgia 34-14. Hey, Desmond Thornton, ringing in from Ringgold. Terrell Oliver makes a good point. He was talking about that he said he or they or Georgia still loves Jacob Eason, and they do. I think I mentioned this the other night when I was on here after the college football playoff ranking show, but I heard Logan Booker on 960 The Ref describe what I thought was a really nice scene of seeing the Easons all together at the Georgia Continuing Education Center, hanging out, all dressed out in their Georgia garb. Everybody looked happy and upbeat before a game. And, certainly Jacob Eason's father competed at Notre Dame. Anybody who's competed at that level gets it. Best player, and circumstances are unexpected a lot of times. Nobody saw this coming. Let's see. Will Chaney, it looked like a real question there. Y'all give me some questions here. Let's see. Will Chaney finally open up wider the playbook with trick plays and bigger plays? This is Mike De Niro. I think he's opened up the playbook a good bit, actually. I think he's opened it up considerably. Here's somebody. Shannon Foster says Auburn will win 24-10. I don't see that. I could see Auburn winning, but I don't see them running away with it. Though momentum can play crazy things in a game like this. Certainly in a big rival game. Sometimes in big rival games, those scores get away from you toward the end of the game. See if I can get this back up here without it falling down on me. I can see it better and I'm not looking down so much. There's the old Nalta question. I need a Nalta bell. Why hasn't Nalta had a bigger role? It's because tight ends in particular aren't playing a very big role at this point. Georgia is obviously a run-oriented team, and they're using those tight ends to help block and seal the edge. Thomas Wood wants to know, will we start with an onside kick? Oh, my goodness. I don't expect them to, though. I guess as Kirby said, he wants to hunt rather than be the hunted. And so I suppose anything's possible. I heard Jim Donnan talk about it later in the week, kind of defending Kirby Smart on. But I don't care what you say. I don't think that was a good idea. Trying that against South Carolina. I don't care what the film said. I don't care any of that. I think you should have lined up and kicked the ball and gone and tried to get them 3 and out and taken over on your offense like you do every other game. And then maybe an onside kick would be unexpected against Auburn if the tape says so, but not against South Carolina. I know coaches don't look at it like that, but I just didn't think. Here's what I think on things like that, and maybe it's because I covered Georgia so much. I guess maybe, I probably covered Mark Richt more than I did any other coach, but besides that was Vince Dooley, and I just hear a Vince Dooley voice in my head. I hear Frank Ross and Scott Warren and these other guys talk about it, and it's just the tape said it, and the video said it, and I'm sure Scott Fountain or Shane Beamer or somebody told Kirby, we think this will work. If it's there, we should try it. But that's where the head coach has to. You know what? We're not going to do that. We're not going to do that in this game. Maybe later. Good to know. Thanks for looking at it, and maybe we'll get it later. Philip Jordan Wells wants to know: is there a flaw in our kick and punt return game? Just in case. Let's see what the rest of that says. I don't know. Maybe it's flawed. Georgia's first off, kickoffs are becoming almost obsolete. You're probably not going to get any kickoff returns against Auburn. Daniel Carlson is maybe the best kicker in America, and I think he's had like 56 of 64 of his kickoffs have been touchback. Rodrigo Blankenship's been similar. The only time you're going to get a return nowadays is almost as a design to where the kicking team wants you to return it to try to get better field position. Punt returns have been an issue. I think that's taken a drop off this season without Isaiah McKenzie. McCole Hardman is trying, and he is he has great speed, but I think he's lacking a little bit on just that vision that Isaiah McKenzie had and that quick burst to get you through there. Hey, Mickey Benson's on here. What do you say, Mickey? Hope you're doing well, bud. Give me a question in there, Mickey. Just tell them how them Reed End Raiders would do it. I'm trying to find a good question here. We got a lot of more comments. Is the team amped up for this game, or are they just methodical? Steve Smith wants to know. I think the senior leadership is doing a good job of keeping these guys kind of on task and not getting too up or too down. And that's the senior leadership. I think that's what's making all the difference on this team. I think the chemistry is great on this team, and I think Kirby's got a good system because of the senior leadership. He lets them give the message. It's a locker room run team, guys like that. Nick Chubb on the Senior Leadership Council, Javon Wims in the background there, Sony Michelle. Those guys are all senior leaders. Those guys coming back is why Georgia's in the position that they are, and it's a player-run locker room, and they're giving the message. So no, I don't think Georgia's overly amped up, and I think that's the reason that Georgia is playing so well. Lorenzo Carter, those guys coming back for their senior year, has made all the difference from a chemistry standpoint on this team. Reading a lot of questions as we're coming here. I'm trying to see who it was. Another question about Nauta. He's busy blocking and doing the stuff that tight ends are doing in a run-oriented game. Eric Green, this is one I saw. Being aggressive forces your opponent to play all aspects of the game, says Eric Green. And that's what Kirby and them say. But I think you have to weigh that with some logic as well. Demetrius Smith thinks Elijah Holyfield should be the return man, and maybe on kickoffs. I don't know about punts. That's a whole different animal. You got to be careful. Going to be cool. 60 with a 30-mile-an-hour wind from the north, says Tony Jackson. That's always a factor over here at Auburn. Some of the coldest games I've endured have been over here at Auburn. I brought up the Between the Hoses game in 1986. 1996, I was there for the quadruple overtime game, which I thought was never going to end. It was actually the first overtime game of that year when they just implemented overtime, and there was total confusion about how it was going to work. And Mike Bobo throws a touchdown pass with a second left. And I'm trying to remember Corey, what's his name? The number one catches it. And Trip Davidson says that Nauta bleaching his hair has affected his playing time. Real quick, again, this Facebook Live Tower Steak is brought to you by Marco's Pizza. And I'm dying because I left my pizza downstairs in the kitchen and I don't have it up here to eat. Jonathan Street wants to do. I think Isaac Nauta is as good as a wide receiver as Godwin is. No, those are different. They're different players. Nauta can split out there and run some stuff, but he can't do what Terry Godwin's doing. Terry Godwin's a good player. He should probably be an all-conference player, maybe if he'd stay healthy. He's getting the crap knocked out of him, which is a hazard of the position. Corey Johnson. No, I don't think it was Corey Johnson. Rick Martin says. It's not important. The kid from College Park who caught the pass. Marshall Hughes wants to know if I think, and we're down to our last minute here, so let's wrap it up. Each question real quick. Do I think the defensive backfield will do well? That's a big key. I think part of the key to that is how the defensive front does. And then, certainly their wide receiver core, probably the best you face this year, I would think. So that's going to be a big one. Dustin Pickett wants to know how good are they at throwing the long ball. They're very good. Dan Fox says Kirby doesn't like how Nauta's been practicing, but I think that's old news. I mean, I don't think that's the case anymore. I think Nauta's answered that. Well, Georgia win the national championship this season. That's a good one to quit on. Wiley Foster, we got to wrap it up here. Wiley, I don't know. But I tell you what, I didn't expect them to contend for the national championship this season at all. I've changed my tune on that completely. I'm talking about in the preseason. I didn't see this coming. Thank you very much, Trip Davidson, Corey Allen. Thank you. And apologies to you, Corey Allen. You're a fantastic player. And Mike Bobo, that was a great catch. Mike Bobo got to you, but it was the catch and getting in that end zone that made the difference. But, yeah, everything is Georgia can win the national championship now. They've got everything they can do it. I'm impressed with the offense, the defense, the special teams, and especially the chemistry and coaching and leadership. And as long as that keeps up, Georgia has a chance to win. That's why I think they're going to win this game. Let's go right middle of the road. I'm going to say Georgia's going to win this game, something in the neighborhood of maybe 23 to 17, somewhere in that. I don't think Georgia's going to score a bunch of points against this defense. I think the defense may score some points in this game. So let's give them a touchdown and a field goal, maybe a couple touchdowns and 3 field goals from Rodrigo Blankenship, and Georgia gets out of there with a 23-17 win and continues to roll down the road toward a national championship and playoff berth and possible national championship. Either way, there's not a lot of pressure on Georgia in this game from the standpoint they're not thinking this. They can lose and still reach all their goals, but that's the fact of the matter. I mean, that's a scenario that'll work. You could lose to Auburn and then go in there and beat Alabama or Auburn again in the SEC championship game and still make it into the playoffs. Thank you, Steve Walden. Thank you to all you guys who hung out here with me tonight. Apologies for a little bit of a scramble mode from a technology standpoint. I just, believe me, it's a minor miracle. Thanks to Mark LeBlanc, our producer, for getting this to work, and will be better going forward. And to Marcos Pizza, guys, you got to try this. Just go to marcos.com. It's the easiest way to do it. You can set up a profile and order any kind of pizza that you want. It's authentic Italian pizza delivered straight to you, and it is, and it's good, and it's waiting for me downstairs. So as soon as I get the notification here, I'm going to go down and eat. Thank you, Trip. Thanks, Trip, for filling in the blanks on me. Corey Allen. Thank you to Corey Allen for making that catch in 1996. And to everybody for reading Dog Nation. We really do appreciate it. We'll continue to provide coverage all year long and all week long. And heading over to the Plains tomorrow. I'm going to actually stay on the Atlanta side of Auburn. But we'll be in there nice and early and have reports up nice and early. Got a couple of stories coming. Got one coming tomorrow and one on Saturday on Jake Fromm. Y'all be sure and read those. In the meantime, keep chopping. Dilly Dilly, says Philip Jordan Wells. Keep chopping, and we will see y'all next time. Bye, y'all.